Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashta Praishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, and the text is, does it say there? 38. Iti murtya vidanena mantra murtim amurtikam yajate yagya purusham sasam yag darshanak puman. Iti, thus, murti, representation, abhidanena, in sound, mantra murtim, form representation of transcendental sound, amurtikam, the Lord, who has no material form, yajate, worship, yajna, Vishnu, Purusham, the personality of Godhead, Saha, he alone, Samyak, perfectly, Darshana, one who has seen, Human, person. Translation. Thus, he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound vibration, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. Would you like to repeat? Thus, he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Our present senses are all made of material elements, and therefore they are imperfect in realizing the transcendental form of Lord Vishnu. He is therefore worshipped by sound representation via the transcendental method of chanting. Anything which is beyond the scope of experience by our imperfect senses can be realized fully by the sound representation. A person transmitting sound from a far distant place can be factually experienced. If this is materially possible, why not spiritually? This experience is not a vague impersonal experience. It is actually an experience of the transcendental personality of Godhead, who possesses the pure form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. In the Amarakosh Sanskrit dictionary, the word murti carries import in twofold meanings, namely form and difficulty. What twofold meanings does murti carry in the Amarakosh dictionary? Thanks. Therefore, amurtikam is explained by Acharya Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as meaning without difficulty. The transcendental form of eternal bliss and knowledge can be experienced by our original spiritual senses, which can be revived by chanting the holy mantras or transcendental sound representations. Such sound should be received from the transparent agency of the bona fide spiritual master and the chanting may be practiced by the direction of the spiritual master. That will gradually lead us nearer to the Lord. This method of worship is recommended in the Pancharatrik system, which is both recognized and authorized. The Pancharatrik system has the most authorized codes for transcendental devotional service. Without the help of such codes, one cannot approach the Lord, certainly not by dry philosophical speculation. The Pancharatrik system is both practical and suitable for this age of quarrel. The Pancharatra is more important than the Vedas for this modern age. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sadvadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamscha Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Sri Varshabhana Videvi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premadya Sri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Sri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gorakishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Parambu Jayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sakchirananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virvava Bhomestvam Nirdesa Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindobhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadambojo Radha Marana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Srimad Ratnangara Singhasanasto Sri Sri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prishtali Bi Sevyamanu Smarami Sriman Rasarasarambi Vamshivata Tatastita Karshan Venu Swanir Gopir Gopinata Shriyestu Naha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulsi Devyai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradi Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Sri Nishinga Jai Nishinga Jai Jai Narasingha Prahalada Desha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata Abhutanam Adharmasya Tadatmanam Srijamyaham Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chaduskritam Dharma Samstapanartaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mami Vaishyasi Yuktvaivam Atmanam Atparayanaha Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja Ahang Tvang Sarva Papebhyo Mokshai Shami Masuchaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Iti Murtya Abhidanena Mantra Murtamamurtikam Yajate Yagya Purusham Sasam Yag Darshana Puman Amurtikam. So Prabhupada has mentioned the two meanings for the word amurti, form and difficulty. And the verse comes in this chapter. Narada Muni is giving instruction to Vyasadeva. This is chapter 5 of the first canto. And Vyasadeva had been in anxiety and had been feeling morose. So Narada Muni is instructing him to bring him to the transcendental position so that he can write the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's advising him in that way, that he should write the Srimad Bhagavatam for the benefit of everyone. And he had said that anything that you desire to describe that's different in subject from the Lord simply disturbs the mind, as a boat on the water is disturbed by the wind when it has no resting place. And coming to the conclusion of this chapter, he gives this verse of how one can directly contact the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the sound vibration. Murti means difficulty, it also means form. And in this verse, amurtikam means without difficulty one can contact the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the process of chanting the mantra. Such a mystical thing is the mantra, isn't it? That there are many, many different kinds of mantras. And the power is in the mantra. Srila Prabhupada spoke quite a bit about the Maha Mantra and mentioned that even if one doesn't know the language of the mantra, because it comes from the spiritual stratum, by chanting the Maha Mantra, one will experience directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, he says that one doesn't see the Lord first with the eyes, but he hears him. And he mentions in the Srila Prabhupada mentions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that when one's chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one will have the experience, if one is fortunate, that this sound, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, resembles no other sound that one has heard before. This is the beginning experience that it's an enchanting sound. And most devotees who have come to the position of taking a vow to chant Hare Krishna have experienced this, otherwise why would they do it? Sometime or another in our lives, we heard the mantra and were enchanted by it. There was something about it that sounded different than any other sound. In fact, we've met so many people, all of us, I'm sure, who have asked people why they have come to the temple or why they're chanting Hare Krishna. And we've heard many stories about people who heard the mantra and then they couldn't get it out of their mind. Or it became so fascinating to them that they had to come back and find out more about it, such as the mantra. So much mystery. Krishna is within the mantra. When we go out to distribute books, we have a system where after someone purchases a book, we ask them if they believe in the power of prayer. And interestingly enough, about 99 people out of 100 say yes. And then we say, we have this prayer we'd like to teach you. It's from the ancient Sanskrit language. It's names of God. It's meant to wake up pure love for God within the heart. Would you like to try it? Repeat after me. And then we hand them a card with the mantra on it and say, please repeat. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And in teaching that to other people, there are also revelations available, because oftentimes I'll say, do you believe in the power of prayer? And they say yes. And I say, I'll teach you this mantra from Sanskrit. Please repeat after me. And then they'll say, wait a minute. What's it going to do to me? They really hesitate. There's a sense of that it's an incantation, that it may transport me to a place I'm not sure of, or it may change me in an inexplicable way. And when they do that, I often think, yeah, what is in that? What is in that mantra that's making them hesitate? The soul is very subtle and has a way of perceiving these things and can look and say, wait a minute, this is going to do something to me. And when I see that, I think, yes, it'll do something to me if I chant the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And sometimes people will innocent people will just charge right in. They don't hesitate. They'll just chant it full blown. And remembering all the teachings that have been given by the great acharyas like Haridas Thakur, who spoke about the power of chanting the holy name of the Lord in an assembly of Brahmins once at the household of Hiranya and Govardhan. He actually had a debate with one very puffed up young Brahmin who took exception to Haridas Thakur's explanation of the holy name, in which he said the dim reflection of the holy name, Namabhasa, can give one liberation. And this Brahmin became indignant and said, yogis, jnanis, they meditate for tens of thousands of lifetimes to come to the position of liberation. And now you're in a public place making an assertion that just by the dim reflection of the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you attain perfection. This is unacceptable. Who are you anyway? He insulted the great Acharya, Thakur Haridas. And he said, if this is not true, I'll cut off your nose. And Haridas Thakur says, if it's not true, I'll cut off my own nose. And a few days later, because of this offense by this puffed up young Brahmin, he contracted leprosy and his nose fell off. The Vedas personified Nikila Shuti Mali Ratnamala Duti Nirajita Pada Pankajanta Ayamukta Kalera Pasyamanam Paritastam Harinama Samshrayami are worshipping the tips of the toes of the lotus feet of the holy name. Imagine the scene, actually. Bhaktivinoda Thakur elaborates on this verse in his Gitavali, where he says, if you creep in and see in the morning the Mangalartik that's taking place as the personified Vedas are doing their morning puja, you'll see that the personified Vedas are doing the artik to the tips of the toes of the lotus feet of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Nikila Shuti Mauli Ratnamala, the crown jewel of all the Vedas. Duti Nirajita Pada Pankajanta, Ayamukta Kaleru Pasyamanam. And Rupa Goswami says, all the liberated souls, they're chanting this mantra. Paritastam Harinama Samshriyami. So he says, I take full shelter there. I take shelter of the holy name of the Lord. So, mantra murtim amurtikam, without difficulty one can chant the holy name of the Lord. Similarly, Rupa Goswami says, vacham vachakam ityudeti bhavato tadvanto vibhavo, that there's no difference between the vacham and the vachakam. That means the personality of Godhead and his name. We speak about this all the time, how Krishna is absolute, so he's non-different from his name, correct? But then Rupa Goswami says, but there is a difference. The difference is that one may commit offenses to the personality of Godhead, but Krishna's name, which is non-different from him, but has a special extended quality of mercy, that the name will extend himself to us, even if we're offensive. And if we chant the holy name, then he'll put us in bliss. He'll make us feel his presence, and we'll be rectified by chanting the holy name. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically mentioned that in the age of Kali Yuga, the process, the only process, is the chanting of the holy names. Sometimes people come and they experience kirtan and they feel a kind of happiness and they don't even know what it is. It may be difficult even for them to follow the 4 regulative principles or to chant japa. But when the kirtan begins, they feel happiness and bliss. It's a universal process. I saw a video recently, I'm sure many of you have seen that, in a synagogue, there's a Jewish rabbi. Have you seen this? Who's doing kirtan from the Torah. He had learned the process in India of how to do kirtan. He plays a harmonium and they chant, and they and he chants names of God from their scriptures, kirtan style, like a bhajan. You can see in the synagogue, all the people are dancing and singing and feeling ecstasy. And afterwards, they interviewed quite a few of the people, and on this one video that I saw, and they were all saying, "I wish they had this for my bar mitzvah," and that this is bringing it to life. This is bringing the Shastra to life. So kirtan, kirti means fame. So it's a process of glorifying Krishna. And this is the desire of the soul, actually. The real desire of the soul is to glorify God. And the simple process of calling out his name. And in the vocative form, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it's an open prayer. It's saying, "Oh Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna." Once in Santa Cruz, California, where we do some of our book distribution and Sankirtan, we set up we like to call a little mini festival. And you know how at Ratha Yatra, people come over and because of the environment, they become eager to find out more about Krishna consciousness, even if they're newcomers, because the atmosphere is surcharged, right? They'll be inquisitive and they feel part of it, just walking into the atmosphere. So we recreate that, and it's possible any street corner, anywhere, or any place in the world, a home, a hall, wherever you are, prison, you can do it in prison. It's been done. You can create the environment, the atmosphere that's conducive for spiritual life, particularly by making the vibration. We set up a table with a display of books like you have in the front hall, put that on the street, and then we'll have a nice bhajan band sitting down or standing up, either way, and then a center for prasadam distribution. We also have a little station for learning meditation. People can sit down. So that's the scene. Anyway, and then there's devotees roaming around speaking to the people who get caught by the atmosphere. It's conducive. So they get caught by the atmosphere, and then they're inquisitive, and then we talk to them and engage them as far as possible in whatever their propensity is. We engage them. So I was out one day in that situation with a devotee named Madhukanta, a very saintly devotee, and he was talking to a couple of young Hispanic women, and they purchased a book from him. And then, as we do, he taught them the mantra. He said, please repeat after me. And they were very innocently repeating, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then they said, what does it mean? And I wanted to know what it means, so I came in closer to hear what Madhukanta was going to say. And he said, it means, I need help. And the next day when I was chanting my japa, I was thinking, I need help. And I was chanting like that and feeling happiness. One conclusion is that by distributing the holy name, there's a kind of rebound effect. When you distribute it to other people, as I mentioned before, you see their reaction in different ways. You also learn things by seeing their reaction and also by hearing the holy name. When you repeat it in that context of giving it to somebody else, somehow or other, it has special potency in the process of giving it to others. So, iti murtya vidanena mantra murtim amurtikam yajite yagya purusham means it's a kind of yagya to chant. Atashi krishnanamadi na bhaved grayam indrayai sevon mukihi jivado swayameva spuratyada. Simple instruction that we can all take home today, and that is that the way to begin the process of yoga is with the tongue. So many different ways and angles in yoga, but this verse from the Padma Purana gives a simple instruction: just concentrate on the tongue. And actually, the tongue, it's a muscle, and there's the voice box. It's one of our senses, actually. And by engaging it in chanting the mantra, then we will we serve Krishna. One thing is that while we're serving Krishna, because Krishna is observing us all the time, he is with us. He's our best friend and well-wisher. He's observing us. And when we do a yajna for his pleasure, then he becomes pleased. And when he becomes pleased, we become pleased. Prahalad Maharaj said that when you decorate your face, then the reflection in the mirror also is decorated. So similarly, when we do a yajna, that is our intention, is to please Krishna, and specifically follow, as is mentioned in this purport, an authorized process to please him. And Krishna becomes pleased, then everything good comes. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayarahaitukam. Just as a collateral from that process of intending to serve Krishna and engaging one's senses in that process, then one gets knowledge and detachment from the world, which further fortifies one in the process of devotional service. So engaging the tongue, Atashri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grayamindra. We can't perceive the personality of Godhead through the senses, because he's beyond the senses. Indriyani prayanyahur indriyebhya paramanaha manasastu parabhutir yobude paratastu saha. In the hierarchy of things, lowest of all are the sense objects, above that are the senses, above the senses is the mind, above the mind is the intelligence, above the intelligence is the soul, and Krishna is the super soul. He's beyond our comprehension. Even Lord Brahma, the most intelligent intellectual being in the universe, after encountering the mystic power of Krishna when he revealed himself as having expanded into the calves and cows and the cowherd boys after he had stolen them, said that others may say they know Krishna, but I don't know Krishna. And if someday scientists can roll up the sky, count all the atoms and all the grains of sand and all the stars in the sky, still they won't understand the qualities of Krishna. So he's unknowable unless he reveals himself. So he becomes pleased when we engage our senses in his service. And this verse says, the beginning sense is the tongue. And the process of japa, ja means birth, pa means sin. You destroy all birth and sin. And it tastes good, frankly, to chant Hare Krishna, because the tongue really needs some engagement. And when it vibrates the holy name, it actually tastes good. In my experience, though, you have to do it a lot, because if you just do it a little, you might not get the taste. And Rupa Goswami says the same thing, that it may taste bitter in the beginning. Just like when you have jaundice, there's a bilious secretion on the tongue, and one of the curatives for jaundice is sugarcane juice. And as you begin to take it, it tastes bitter. But as you continue to take it, its effect, its curative effect begins, and then you taste the sweetness of it. So similarly, chanting japa, we have a way in which we take a stand. We call this the numerical strength. That, it's a kind of a medicinal. It's a kind of a way of taking medicine. You say at least this much every day. And we have this minimum 16 rounds. But have you ever experienced that, you can chant 15 rounds and not have a taste, and then on number 16 you get a taste? Have you experienced that? Yes or no? Yeah. So, what if you stopped at 14 or something like that? I've heard it compared to going to the ocean. You might go to the ocean and look at it, and if you just look at the surface, then you'll see a reflection. And after a while, you'll think there's not much there. It's not that interesting. But if you go into the ocean and go deep into it, you'll find jewels. You'll find all kinds of life. Everything's there. So there's a way in which the process of yoga, engaging the tongue and endeavoring for that taste. It's not just chanting, it's also that we chant and we avoid the 10 offenses at the same time, which is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice to avoid the 10 offenses. Like, don't criticize devotees, sadhu ninda. I may be starving, hungry, and nothing will satisfy me but food, but if someone begins to criticize devotees, then my tongue will say, oh, I could do that, even if I'm starving, hungry. So there's a propensity there, described as the all-pervading sentiment in the material world is envy. And that envy rests within the heart. When it comes out through the tongue, it becomes pernicious. It can penetrate somebody else's heart when it comes out through one's tongue. So one of the symptoms of someone who's advanced in Krishna consciousness is either they restrain themselves from speaking ill about devotees, or anyone else for that matter. And that's described in the 5th verse of the Upadeshamrita. Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pranati bishcha bhajantam isham shushushaya bhajana vignamananyamanya nindari shunya hridamipsita sangalabhya. The most advanced devotee is someone who's become free from this propensity to criticize others non-constructively. So that's a lifestyle in and of itself, isn't it? Yes? I'm not convinced. Yeah. So that and chanting, it can please Krishna, and Krishna will reveal himself. That's what the verse says. Just by engaging the tongue, and the other way to engage the tongue, which is another kind of yajna or austerity, amazingly, this always surprised me when I first came to Krishna consciousness, because I was under the impression before joining the Krishna consciousness movement that the only way to see God was by extreme austerity, and that whatever food I ate had to be meager and unpalatable. But then when the devotees showed me prasadam and said, no, this is austerity, I thought, I like this kind of austerity. But actually, if you only take food offered to Krishna, there's a profound effect that of consciousness, a conscious connection with Krishna. It's like, I only eat what my master eats, or what he's already eaten. It's a kind of a love evoked within the heart when we take the remnants of someone's food. And if you do it all the time, and that's my strict policy. We were talking about vegetarianism the other night. Someone was asking, well, how do I win this argument about vegetarianism? I said, you don't. There's too many ways around it. I said, you just change the ground and say, we're not vegetarians. We just take prasadam. It's much easier. Whatever Krishna eats, we eat. If he would eat meat, we would take that remnant also. But he doesn't, so by default we're vegetarians. So this lifestyle, yagyate yagya purusham, means to perform yagya, and the yagya can begin with the tongue just by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra with the tongue, exercising the tongue in that way, and by taking food which is offered to Krishna. Amazingly, Krishna will reveal himself to the devotee. He feels gratitude towards the devotee who lives in that kind of yagya. And the verse says that you get full darshan in that way, full darshan of the Lord through that sound vibration. And of course, at the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions Panchratrik. Do you know what Panchratrik means? Anybody? Pancharatri, 5 nights, means that the Panchratrik system, our bhakti, am I going too long? It's 8:22. What time does the class go till? Okay, we have 8 minutes. I'll just make a quick point and then we'll see if we have any questions. So, Panchratrik, we have 2 tracks that our devotional life runs on. One track is Bhagavat Marg. That means the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. These 9 processes are direct devotional service. And then we have the Panchratrik system. Panchratri, it's explained in the history that Lord Krishna spoke the Vedas to Lord Brahma. Then, when Brahma was sleeping, Madhu and Kaitapa came and they stole the Vedas from his mind while he was dreaming. When he awoke, the Vedas were gone. He went to Lord Krishna, not knowing how much time he had left in his life, and asked him to re-speak the essential aspects of the Vedas. And he did so within 5 nights. And those came as these very essential processes of devotional service, like deity worship, how to worship the deity. And there are hundreds of Pancharatras. The most prominent one in our line is the Narada Pancharatra, which gives all the codes for worshiping the deity. And there's a process for entering into those codes and accepting them through initiation, the Panchatratric initiation that we take called Diksha. And then those mantras become highly effective. Like we take Pancharatric, the Gayatri mantras, which we take, are a part of that. Secret mantras, actually, they're not open like the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Of course, you can read them in a book somewhere, but they won't have effect. Explained just like banyan trees give seeds, and those seeds fall to the ground, but they don't germinate by themselves. Sparrows that live around the banyan trees pick them up, eat them. There's a digestive enzyme in their stomachs that melts the outside of the seed, and when they pass it back out again, it germinates into another banyan tree. So similarly, the codes of the Pancharatric system must be digested first through the mind and heart of a spiritual master and passed on to the disciple. Then they will have effect. So the Pancharatric system keeps one regulated, keeps one in the mode of goodness. Because in the age of Kali Yuga, although the Bhagavat Marg, chanting Hare Krishna, is sufficient in itself for complete perfection and can bring one to prema when accepted from the guru, in the age of Kali Yuga, it's very rare for someone to not be afflicted by the anomalies of the Kali Yuga. And therefore, the Pancharatric system, like we have here, in elaborate style, worshipping Shri Shri Radhakala Chanji, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, coming to the temple, taking early morning bath, all these are part of the Pancharatric system. And taking the Gayatri initiation mantras and chanting those, one can remain pure in mind enough to chant Hare Krishna without making the offenses. Now we have 5 minutes. So either please ask a question or you can give a reflection of one thing that you heard that you'll take away. We'll only take 3, starting now. Okay. Yes.
Thank you for the nice class first. If you go longer than 8:30, nobody's going to mind. I think Prasad comes out maybe a little, and maybe we may get short end on that, but otherwise, keep on speaking if you feel. I had just one question on the holy name. Being that Krishna is non-different than his name, and this transcendental sound vibration is also Krishna, how is it that when it's spoken by an impersonalist or somebody who does not see Krishna in his personal form, how is it that the recipient doesn't get the effect of Krishna's name?
Nice question. And the answer is because it's not mechanical, because Krishna is a person. And he reveals himself to whom he desires to reveal himself. So it's not that the mantra is just automatic, that anyone who chants it, for any reason, with any motivation, because it will get the same result. Because there is a reciprocation by a person. And the devotee who's advancing in devotional service experiences this for him or herself. Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Mama vartmanuvartanta manusya partha sarvaja. Krishna is everything. And everyone's on, somehow or other, on a path that's created by Krishna directly or indirectly. And he's reciprocating with everyone. When someone surrenders to Krishna, then there's Krishna feels obligated, actually. Jnane prayasamurapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam stane stita shrutigutam tanuvan manobiri ye prayaso jita jito pyasi taistrilokyam. Lord Brahma said, after experiencing the unlimited power, experiencing the unlimited power of Krishna, that you can't understand him by speculation, and that one should therefore surrender. And in an environment of pure devotees, one should hear and chant about Krishna. And by doing that, then Krishna feels obligated. Although he's unconquerable, he then reveals himself to the devotee. And we know this from our own personal dealings. When you deal with somebody, as I said earlier, the soul is very subtle. And you know when you're dealing with somebody in a relationship, oftentimes you can sense their motivation, right? And isn't it, if you're dealing with somebody and they give you something in a motivated way, it's not very attractive, actually. You may accept it and you're going home, you start to go to sleep at night, and then you'll wake up and think, that wasn't very nice. He didn't appreciate it. But if with pure motivation someone gives you the most insignificant thing, even gives you some of their time in an unmotivated way, then you'll feel so obligated that you'll be falling asleep at night thinking, how can I repay this person? Because what they gave me was it's not something practically. It's so hard to reciprocate with someone when they give you something out of love. So when someone chants Hare Krishna out of a sense of love for Krishna and wanting to serve him, then Krishna is attracted. Tarejati tanaijati tadure tadvantike tarantarasya sarvasya turu sarvasya sibhayataha. The Lord is far away, but he is very near as well. He's within everything, and yet he's outside of everything. The Upanishads speak of the Lord like this. He can be far away, but he's very near as well. But for the devotee who chants with full feeling and says, Krishna, I surrender to you, please protect me, he feels a sense of obligation. He feels a sense of duty to protect the soul. So those who feel that, those who insult Krishna or feel that they are Krishna, or they have a hatred for Krishna and they chant his name, do not make the same vibration as someone who's out of pure love or helplessness chanting the name. Queen Kunti says, Janmai Shraya Shuta Shribir Edamanamada Puman Naivar Yabidatum Vai Twama Kinchana Gocharam. If you're intoxicated, what are the causes of intoxication? All kinds of things. I have a bank account. I have lots of money, a brand new car, and gas in the tank. And what do I need to chant for? Because, I'm all right now. When we go out to distribute books, this is another reflection you get back where when I present it to others and they say back to me, I'm all right, I'm all set. I see that in myself. Krishna says, I've come to save you. And they say, that's all right, not right now. I'm fine. So Kunti says, if someone's in this mood, I'm fine, I have everything I need, then how can they chant with full feeling? But if someone's akinchan, kinchan means something, and akinchan means I don't have anything. I'm helpless, completely helpless. Actually, that's a fact. I can't breathe without Krishna's mercy. I can't move my hand without Krishna's mercy. I can't think. I can't coordinate my speech with my brain without Krishna's mercy. So if I feel that, if I understand that, and I call out for Krishna, Hare Krishna, helplessly, then Krishna's akinchan gochara. That person he's attracted to. So it's a reciprocation. And this is really the essence of life, is our reciprocation with Krishna, with God. It's going on everywhere throughout nature. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vididhati kaman. Krishna's supplying for everyone happily. But no one's reciprocating with him. Everyone's simply taking. And this is the anomaly of the material world. Payam dvitiya binibeshata syad ishara petasya viparya yosmritihi. Because I've turned my attention away from God, and I see that I don't have any sense of gratitude towards him. That the apple hanging from the tree, I don't see it, I just see it as a commodity and not as the most magnificent creation, that he's given me this perfect food with a wrapper on the outside. So when we chant Hare Krishna, if we feel a sense of gratitude towards Krishna and helplessness, then the vibration is powerful. And those who don't like Krishna, or actually have an aversion to him, or their intention is to turn other people away from him, and they chant, that the vibration will have an opposite effect, actually. It's like milk, which is a nourishing substance, but if it's touched by the lips of a serpent, it becomes poisonous. Is that what you meant?
The poison effect on the holy name. I mean, if somebody is innocent in the audience, because they have huge gatherings of kirtanyas that are singing Krishna's name, and people have I don't know if they have any idea of what Krishna is or who Krishna is. Are these people getting any effect from that?
It really depends on the person. Because Krishna, again, is directing from within the heart. He knows what every living entity is looking for and what his intention is. Often, the vibration that's made in those places is accompanied by a certain kind of association. And therefore, when we take this so-called Harinam initiation, really what it's about is ultimately, along with us taking Harinam initiation, we also are taking instruction about our relationship with Krishna, sambandha. We want to hear over and over again what our relationship is with Krishna, so that when we chant, we can develop the relationship. So someone may be chanting Hare Krishna innocently enough in these kind of assemblies, but what kind of instruction are they getting along with it? It's important. Sanitya nitya sambandha prakritischa parayavasa. We have an eternal kinship with Krishna, this sambandha. But if someone's chanting Hare Krishna and then what they hear in the Sangha afterwards is that you are Krishna, or they don't get proper instruction of how to live their life in such a way so that they can take full advantage of the holy name, then it won't have the full-blown effect. But to answer your question more directly, if someone's innocent and they have an accumulation of this bhakti, sukriti in their heart, then gradually they'll be directed in the right way. Many people start off in that kind of association and then end up being in more specific kind of association that will help them because they're sincere. So it really depends. It's not stereotype. Is that all right? Okay. Virginia, you have a question?
No, just a very nice class.
Oh.
Just really love it because we don't have any, I'm visiting from Idaho, and we don't have any pujaris.
You're visiting from where?
Idaho.
Idaho.
And we don't have any pujaris there, so we don't always get the opportunity to hear class, so it's so nice to come here. listen to such nice classes, I can go back and share my
How come you can't to your class? Because you don't have Pujaris?
Well, we have class, but we can't have such nice long discussions because we only have 2 or 3. And so much service that they cannot just sit down and give so much time. So you have to you have classes every morning, but they can only be for about half an hour, 45 minutes. There's so much service and so few people. So it's nice to come and take nice long classes and go back and share with everyone.
Good idea. Nice to see you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, that's 2. We need 1 more. Oh, good. Prema Bhakti's going to ask?
Thank you for the nice class.
Thanks for being here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You mentioned a verse, and I was wondering if you could repeat it, that we cannot perceive Krishna with our senses. And it seems like we're always trying to engage our senses in perceiving Krishna. And I wonder if you could repeat that verse and elaborate on that a little bit.
Atashri Krishna namadi na bhaved grayam indriyai sevamukhi jivado swayameva spuratyada. It means that Krishna can't be perceived by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to one who engages in his seva, in his service, beginning with the tongue. And sadhana bhakti means to engage the senses in the service of the Lord. And as we do so, they become purified. And with purified senses, then we gain more impetus to serve Krishna. And Krishna reveals himself. Really, the point is that Krishna's the infinite and we're infinitesimal. And how can the infinitesimal understand the infinite? Only if the infinite reveals himself, and not otherwise. Practically, Srila Prabhupada mentions several times that the highest position of realization you can come to through your own efforts is to understand Brahman. That's normally the conclusion through the intellect. Because the material world's full of variety, and because it's temporary and miserable, therefore, spiritual life must be the antithesis, and that must mean formlessness. That's the conclusion by the intellect. Yogis engage in kind of meditation by which they can perceive the supersoul who has form. But as Prabhupada mentions in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Swayambhuva Manu meditated for 10,000 years, there is bhakti mixed in. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms to Sanatana Goswami that any process, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, to the degree that bhakti is mixed into it, there's success. Otherwise, there's no success because it's not mechanical. And so, as we please Krishna through following the process of engaging our senses in his service, the senses become purified, and Krishna reveals himself to such a person. Brahmarpanam brahmahavir brahmagno brahmanahutam tenaiva brahmagantavyam brahmakarma samadhina. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that everything that's supposedly material can be transformed when engaged in Krishna's service. Just as an iron rod, although it's a hard metal substance, when it's put into an extremely hot flame, just like at the blacksmith, and it's kept in that flame, it becomes hot, hotter, hottest, and then it becomes red hot. And then there's no difference between that iron bar and the fire. So our senses are covered now by matter. And when that matter is engaged in Krishna's service, then it becomes spiritualized. And the true nature of our senses comes to bear. And that is that they are all meant to serve Krishna. They feel happiness and ecstasy connected to the service of Krishna. So sadhana bhakti, we engage the senses in Krishna's service when we fully enter the process, really through initiation, and we take a vow, I'm going to do this. Then we have a different kind of body. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami, our body is different. It's no longer a material body. It's called a sadhana deha. Hare Krishna. A sadhana deha, it's a practitioner's body. And the acharyas have said, green mango, ripe mango, both are mangoes. It's just a matter of time. So it's such a simple thing to concentrate on engaging the tongue in Krishna service, the chanting and the taking of Krishna prasadam, and avoiding criticizing others is especially helpful. This is one of the austerities of speech, is to avoid speech that offends. And in fact, in the verse, the most essential verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master, Srila Ishvarapuri, Evam vratasva priyanama kirtya jatana rago jita chuta ucher asatyito rotiti roti gayati unmadavan nrittiti lokabhayaha. He told him this verse when he gave him when Mahaprabhu received initiation from Ishvarapuri in Gaya, and he began chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Then he came back to his spiritual master for more instruction, because he said, I don't understand what kind of mantra you've given me. Hare Krishna. I don't understand what kind of mantra you've given me, because I feel I've become like a madman after chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And sometimes I laugh, sometimes I cry, sometimes I fall on the ground. And Srila Ishvarapuri gave this verse, which he said is the most essential verse of the Bhagavad. Evam vrata swa priyanama kirtya. When you take a vrat, this becomes, you have the shraddha, this faith, that if I chant Hare Krishna, I'll get everything else. This means faith. Shraddha shabdi vishwas kahi surida nishchoy Krishna bhakti koile sarva karma krita hoy. Real faith means that I understand if I just do this one thing, I'll get everything else. So one develops this kind of faith in the holy name by the mercy of devotees. Traveling throughout the universe, Prabhupada said, it's like we have a bank account in our heart. And every time we meet a devotee, through the process of engaging in agyata sukriti, or unknown contact with devotional service, or doing some service, even unknowingly, I get a deposit in that bank account. When I have enough, when it comes to a certain level, I have enough capital, what do I get? Ado shraddha. Shraddha is born. That means a feeling that I should do this. Some people hear the chanting of Hare Krishna and they feel like, hey, I should have thought of that. Why don't I do that? I should do this. Other people hear the chanting and they say, please stop, please go away. They're not interested. They don't have enough sukriti yet. But when you have that accumulation, then it becomes attractive. It's a rare thing. It's a wealth, actually. And someone who has that feeling, then evam vrata, they take a vow to chant Hare Krishna, because they know, against all odds, I must conquer the senses. Against all odds, I must get out of this material world now that I have the chance. Atato brahma jignasa means because now you know that you've tried everything else and it didn't work. So now you have to do this. This is the determination of someone who takes a vrat to chant Hare Krishna. Evam vrata swa priyanama kirtan. What happens? When the person goes on chanting, he or she feels a closeness to the holy name. The relationship develops. It becomes, a particular name becomes dear to the devotee. And then the heart melts. The heart, which is in an abnormal condition because of conditioning by the three modes of material nature, it melts by the presence of the holy name. And then one becomes indifferent to the outside world. Mentioned there that sometimes devotees in that state will laugh or cry or roll on the ground in public, but not all. Those with melted hearts who are in an advanced position of devotional service may not show externally. Prabhupada did not. Only on several occasions, which are legendary, which are noted in various accounts when Prabhupada was chanting Jayarada Madhava. Sometimes, a couple of times he went into trance, and some devotees saw him crying at certain times. But he was, other than that, he was stoic externally. And in the commentary of this essential verse, Madhvacharya says that some show, some don't show externally when they have a melted heart. But there are two symptoms which are always prominent in a devotee who has come to this advanced stage. One is steadiness. A devotee who is advanced is always steady. Doesn't matter what the external condition. He or she goes on with the service, is very attached to the service and won't give it up for any reason, stays steady. And the second is that whatever comes from that devotee's mouth, whatever they speak, is beneficial for others. It's meant to give mercy to other people. Even if it's a reprimand, it's meant, it's intended in that way. It's not out of envy. The envy's gone from within the heart by the power of the holy name. So, Atashri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Graimindriyai, a simple sutra which I would apply to that verse would be what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, that don't try to see Krishna. Try to work in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. In fact, in the Panchatric system, when we come to the temple for darshan, it's not that we're going in to see Krishna. It's we're going in a mood that Krishna will see us. Our whole preparation in the Panchatric system of waking up, saying prayers, taking bath, putting on tilak, coming to the temple, being there, when the curtains open, it's like, okay, I want to be seen. In that sense, a great deal of devotional service, or anything else for that matter, is just about showing up. If you're there, people notice you. I noticed in school, if you show up, right? If you go, when you went to law school, if you go to school and you sit in the front row, even if you're a dummy, and the teacher sees you there every day, he or she will give you a high mark. If you sit there and listen carefully, even if you don't do that well, it's because you showed up. So when we show up for Krishna, may not be intellectual, but when I chant Hare Krishna, I show up for the name. I'm fully conscious. I'm there. I don't understand exactly how it works, but I'm going to be there and be present with the holy name and not distract my attention elsewhere. Krishna notices, and he'll reveal himself in miraculous ways. He reveals himself as he chooses, because he's the supreme autocrat, and he can come to us in any way we like. He'll show up in our life in all kinds of miraculous ways, sometimes which are not comprehensible to us at first. And even Prabhupada said, quoting the verse, Yasyaham anagrinnami harishe taddanam shanai, that sometimes Krishna takes things away that we thought were essential to our livelihood, in such a way to get our attention even more. He said, it happened to me, that he had had a career and actually intended to use that career in Krishna's service, but then Krishna took away everything. Prabhupada said he dismantled it. And some devotees laughed when he said that. And Prabhupada said, when Krishna takes away everything, you become very morose. And in that situation, we may have what I was describing earlier, this kind of akinchan, or also what I like to call sometimes beginner's mind, or a teachable moment. How many teachable moments do we actually get in life when the message really goes in? I know when I was staying in Govardhan and Kartik last year, I was running for Mangal Arti because I had a vow that I had to be on time every day for the Mangal Arti. And I was a little late because someone asked me a question on my way out of my room, and I realized I had to run up the stairs. I heard the conches blowing. It was dark. I ran up, in the place in Govardhan, they have those arches at the Bhaktivedanta ashram. I ran through there, and full force, I hit my head like on that, and it knocked me out practically. It knocked me backwards. I was going so fast. And I was on the ground on my back, and I thought, first thing I thought is, I'm such an idiot. And then, I thought, I deserve that. And then I felt good, actually, I thought. And sometimes when you get hit on the head in various ways, there's a feeling of relief. Of course, you can do it yourself too. Like when you offer, not to hit yourself on the head, but like Dandavat Parikram, this is another experience. Not that I recommend this highly, but although it is nice. I did that once at Govardhan, and being flat on the ground, you can't go any further down, and then there's a relief. Because material life's such a burden, my ego is such a burden. And if I lay it all down on the ground and say, forget it, I can't do it anymore, I give up, I'm just going to lie flat on the ground, Krishna, do whatever you want with me. Whatever you want, just do it, it's fine, I give up. I'm your servant, I'm your slave, whatever. It's fine, I'll roll on the ground if I have to. That feels good, actually. Material life where I have to maintain a status quo is very difficult, actually. It's such a burden. So to abandon that and chant Hare Krishna is a sublime life. And it requires finesse, because we're a combination of matter and spirit. And to come to the position of balance in life requires, vidyam chayas tad vedo bayam saha. Avidyayam ratum tirtva vidyayam ratamashnate. Sri Upanishad said, only one who can learn the process of knowledge, transcendental knowledge and nescience side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. There is a maturity that comes in our relationship with Krishna, in our practice of devotional service, a mature understanding of the philosophy and what it takes to move in the world and at the same time be fully surrendered to Krishna. Nothing can replace maturity. And you can't speed it up. Well, I suppose you can speed it up, but you still have to go through the process. And you still have to get hit on the head. And that if you're chanting while you do that, then you get the special realization and an accumulation of those over a lifetime gives us a standing in devotional service. Is that all right? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So that was 3. So all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Narada Muni ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Go Premanande Haribo.